Hey guys, welcome back. So today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up. There are 9 books on here in total because I did DNF 3 books in February, but I read 6 books, or finished 6 books in February, so I'm going to go through those. A lot of those I have already talked about in vlogs throughout the month of February, or the ones that I have been reading for a couple of months now, so I've talked about them before. So if you want to see like live in the moment as I'm reading them, thoughts and opinions, you can go check out my weekly vlogs. Here I'm just going to kind of quickly wrap up, summarize everything that I read. So I do have my I'll Create reading planner that I have been trying to be better about using this year. This is like the 3rd one that I've gotten, and it's probably more than that. It's probably the 4th or 5th one I've gotten. And I always end up like never using them, so trying to be better about that this year. I've kept up with it so far, so I have all my books written down in here. I've tracked them as I've gone along, so I'm gonna go ahead and open that up and go through these. 2 were audiobooks, 2 were ebooks. That's what it is. 2 were audiobooks, 2 were ebooks, and 2 were physical books. So I'm gonna start with the DNF'd ones because those obviously don't have much to say about them. These were these were all arcs that I received actually. 2 of them were from NetGalley. 1 came directly from Penguin Random House. So the first one is The Queering by Brooke Skipstone. I'll put the cover up here. I don't have a physical copy of it. This one was a little weird to me. It was, I didn't get very far into it. I think I only got a couple of chapters into it, but the main character is a woman who, so it goes back and forth between like her past and then now the present, her in the present. In the past, she was raised in a very like conservative household, and she had her female best friend who, she eventually fell in love with. But she obviously had to hide it, living in the household that she did, and then that best friend ends up dying. And then in the present point of view, she knows that she is queer. She knows that she is not happy with her husband, but she has to hide that fact from everyone. She is also a secret undercover author who writes books. And the main character of her books, Brooke Skipstone, is based on that, her like childhood love, the girl who died, and she has to hide that fact from her family. Nobody in her family knows that she is the author of these books. Eventually, one of her female students, one of her female students finds out or realizes that she is the author of these books, and like confronts her about it. And it seems like they strike up a friendship, but the things that she was telling this student and the way she was talking to her and the way she was just kind of like bearing her soul to her just didn't feel appropriate, and the things that we were talking about didn't feel appropriate, and I knew that it was gonna like make me feel icky if I kept reading it, so I let it go. I was definitely not like in the right headspace to be reading about teachers having inappropriate relationships with students, so I let that one go. And I guess I could totally be wrong. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe they just developed like a friendship. But I think that even if there's no like malicious intent behind it, even if she's not actually doing anything inappropriate with the student, I still think even having like a close friendship with a student, especially like I think this girl was like maybe a freshman, is still inappropriate. So like I said, I let that one go. Then the other one was Someone Else's Shoes by Jojo Moyes, I think is how you say it. She wrote Me Before You, which I really liked. This book I got like 20% in and I could not do it. It made me so mad. I actually have clips on our stories that I did on my Instagram, which is always linked below, of me like in the moment reading this book, and I couldn't. So it starts off, so it's 2 point of views. One from a woman who is having like the worst day of her life. she has to, I forget what kind of like salesperson she is, but she's the person who like goes to these companies and sells whatever product is. I think it's like copiers, maybe something like that, some kind of like machine like that, but I think it's a copier. So she has to go in and convince these big companies to purchase these copiers and use them. And so she's having a really bad day. She has not been meeting like the quota of sales, and so now she has this huge meeting, this huge like presentation, and she needs to make this sale or she could be losing her job. And on top of it, her husband is going through like a depressive episode, and he's not working, and so her whole family is like relying on her. Then there's also another point of view from a woman who is basically the opposite. She has the perfect life, seemingly perfect life. Her husband is some like banker or something and a millionaire, and she's your typical like trophy wife. She doesn't do, she doesn't do anything but go to the gym, play tennis, socialize with her friends, shopping, using her husband's money, blah blah. Your typical like snooty rich lady, like think of somebody off the Real Housewives of whatever. I don't watch that show, but somebody like that. So that's how the story starts out, with both of them. The one lady, I don't even remember their names, having like the perfect life, and the other one living a more normal life with its hardships and money issues and all that. So on this particular day, they both go to the same gym, which I think is pretty unlikely that these two women would go to the same gym. And they somehow accidentally end up switching gym bags. And now all of a sudden, their fortunes kind of change. And the woman living the normal like blue collar life ends up having the best day ever, and the rich woman ends up having the worst day ever. And so the rich woman was really the problem in this story for me. After they switched gym bags, she has a whole fit that they lost her gym bag. She blames the gym even though they have nothing to do with it. The two women just happen to have like the same gym bag, but it was like a Dior, Chanel, something gym bag, and the regular woman had like a knockoff version, and they ended up getting switched. So she blames the gym, she leaves. She goes back to her high-rise to realize that her husband has kicked her out and kept all of her stuff, left her with nothing. And instead of being like humbled or trying to pluck up the courage to do things on her own and be her own woman and do her own thing, she is just like a horrible human being. She was on about like having to live a normal life, and how she put up with the husband and he was cheating on her, and she deserved this money, and she has nothing. He leaves her with nothing, no clothes, no money, no nothing, nowhere to go. So she ends up going to a Goodwill store, and she was on this rant. She has like a whole mental breakdown inside of the Goodwill. And she says something about it, like, I forget what the exact words were. Like I said, there's stories on my Instagram. I think it's like under Bookish Thoughts is the highlight where I have it. But she says the Goodwill smells like desperation and commoners or something like that. Like talking crap about the people in the Goodwill. And the entire time she's talking crap about the people who shop there. And I couldn't do it. I don't care about like rich, snooty, bitchy women. Like there's a reason why I don't like the Real Housewives kind of shows. I could care less. So I did not like that. I didn't like this woman. Like it was just making me mad every time I picked it up. And there are certain types of books that I like when they make me mad, but this, I couldn't get behind it. So I knew I was going to end up hating her the whole way through. So I just gave up on that one. The next book is Song of Silver, Flame Like Night. This one, maybe one that I may eventually pick up again. It is set, it's about like Chinese like lore and history, and but it's also got some like magical elements to it. It kind of reminds me of like She Who Became the Sun, like that same kind of like era, and about like the different dynasties and stuff. I think it wasn't necessarily the book. I think it was just more me. I have to be like in a very like specific mood to want to read like very like heavy fantasy. Like there's gonna be a lot of like world building and like plot development and like it's slow building, I have to be in the right mindset for that. So, which I was not. So I ended up putting that one down. So again, it may not be a full DNF, may just be putting it down for now. May pick it up later. So yeah, those are the 3 books that I DNF'd. Then the next book is going to be How to Sell a House by Grady Hendrix. I did talk about this one in one of my vlogs. I gave this 2 stars. I did not love it. I have read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Vampires or whatever it is. I really liked that one. I think I give that 5 stars. This was just, 1, I don't like dolls. They creep me out. So there were some parts that were pretty creepy. 2, I just did not like these characters. They were very unlikable. Their parents had just died, and all either of them could care about or cared about was the money they were going to be getting, and arguing amongst themselves. Like, I get it's one thing to have like an estranged relationship with your sibling, but it's another thing to come back home after your parents have died and just only be arguing about money. And so that seemed like a huge part of the story, rather than, that seemed like more of the focus of the story rather than the actual paranormal stuff that was happening, or it focused too much on those things rather than like the paranormal that was happening. Also, I think it was just too long. There was a part about like 80% in where it would have been a good stopping point, like something happened and there was a resolution, and that could have been it. But instead it went on another like 20%. And like I could see that the author was like just trying to add like another layer to it, but I just don't think it needed it. It could have, like I said, it could have ended at the 80% mark and been like 200 pages shorter and been perfectly fine. So yeah, like I said, I gave that 2 stars. Then the next book I read was Dead Awake by Erik Larson. I gave this 3 stars. It was good. This is about the sailing of the Lusitania, which was a cruise liner during World War I, I believe. And this was like after the Titanic. And they basically didn't learn anything after the sinking of the Titanic. A lot of mistakes were made. A lot of things happened that shouldn't have. But it was also during the time when the Russians or Germans, I don't remember which one. I think it's the Russians, maybe. Or maybe it was the Germans. I don't remember. Were like threatening any ships that came through like this specific area of like the ocean. And they were torpedoed by submarines. And so this is about the sailing of one of those ships, the Lusitania, and about like the survivors and the actual sinking and everything that happened. So the first half of the book was like the setup about the 2 like main captains that they talk about in this book. So there's the captain of the Lusitania, the man who ended up being the captain, and then the captain of the U-boat that ended up sinking the Lusitania. I didn't really need all of that back, like history. It could have given me some of that and then just moved on to the actual story of the Lusitania, but instead it was like pretty evenly split. Like half of the book was like set up, and then the other half was actually about the Lusitania and the passengers on it, and like the leading up to the sailing leading up to the sinking, and then the actual sinking, and then just like the aftermath of it. I greatly preferred the second half of the book. I didn't need all of the like precursor history before it. But yeah, it was good. 3 stars, like I said. And then the next book I read was The Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This is a dark romance, like a typical like mafia romance. It is about a man and woman from 2 rivaling families. One are like Italian and the others are Irish, I believe, like Irish Catholic. And they are rivaling families. They are like mafia, like I said. And so this thing happens between the 2 families. There's a fight that breaks out, somebody gets injured, and the 2 dads come together to like mend things, because they know that this rivalry has been going on for so long that it's become like a blood feud, and they don't want their kids to continue on. And so many people have died because of this blood feud, and neither fathers want to see their kids die because of it. So they decide that the way to mend this is to join their families and force the one daughter and the son to get married. So there's an arranged marriage element as well. Like I said, your typical mafia romance. It was a little bit predictable. There were parts of it that I kind of, that I did kind of see coming pretty early on. It was good, but I think for Sophie Lark, her There Are No Saints, I think is what it's called. Serial duology, I think it is, was much better. This was good. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars. Good, but not great. Then the next book I had, or the next book I read was The Drowned Woods by Emily Lloyd Jones. She also wrote The Bone Houses, I think is what it's called. I think that one was a lot better. This one was a pretty standard, like, standalone fantasy. It had kind of Gilded Wolves vibes, but Gilded Wolves is much better. This had, like, the found family aspects, the heist, the like magical elements. Again, I think I said this about a lot of the books that I read in February. It was good, but it wasn't great. There was nothing like mind-blowing. The only thing that I can say was that there was a couple of twists towards the end that I didn't expect or didn't like see coming, so that kind of bumped up the rating for me a little bit. But for the most part, like I said, it was good, but nothing mind-blowing. Then we're getting to the 2 physical books I read. Okay, so the first one I have is Girl Forgotten. This is actually going to be coming up in a vlog soon, but I read this last week, I think. This was probably the best book I read in the month of February. This is like the 4th or 5th book I've read by Karen Slaughter. Actually, probably more than that, because I'm pretty far into the ᴏᴏᴅᴅ series. This was, I don't think it was as good as like The Good Daughter, or I forget what the other one is. There's another one that I read, another standalone. First of all, I didn't know that this was actually the second book in a duology. So I want to go back and read that one. But this was really good. There were parts, you'll see in that vlog, this book made me so mad. I was like seething. Like, the last time I have been that mad at a book was when I read Beartown by Frederick Bachman. And for a lot of the same like reasons. This had a lot of the same like kind of subject matter. This is about a girl, so it goes dual POV. The first POV is in the like 80s, and the second POV is current day. So in the earlier timeline, it's about a girl, Andrea, who she ends up pregnant, and it's the 80s, and she's not married. She's only like 17, I think. So she's like ostracized from this small town that she lives in. Her mom is trying to become a judge, like a federal judge, I think. And they are very like conservative, and like her mom's pretty high up there. Like, she knows Ronald Reagan and is very worried about like the opinion he will have of her and her family. And so this has a lot of like social topics, abortion, rape, drug use, the treatment of women, religious topics, like just, it kind of goes through the whole like gamut of social topics. This one is definitely more about like those social issues than it is gory. I shouldn't say most. The 2 Karen Slaughter books I read before were very like gory, and she doesn't hold back. Some things I feel like are kind of used for like shock value almost. This didn't really have that. This would definitely focus more on like the social things, like I said. Then the current timeline is a woman who is a U.S. Marshal who is trying to figure out 2 different mysteries, or 2 different, she's working on 2 different cases, basically. The case of Andrea from, at this point, I think it's like been like 40 years or something, which she's not like officially on that case, but she's trying to figure it out. And then also she's there to take care of a judge who happens to be Andrea's mom, who's getting these threatening letters. And so this had some good like plot twists that I didn't see coming. There was a lot of characters in this, so you had to kind of keep up and remember who was who. what kept this from being a 5-star for me was the end reveal, like what ended up happening. It just seemed kind of like the easy out. Like once it was revealed, I was like, okay, yeah, that I should have seen that coming. That seems like the obvious choice or the obvious like resolution to this, and I think something else could have been done. It could have been more of a surprise, or more, maybe not like the most logical explanation. But yeah, it still was really good. Like I said, it really made me very mad. It made me cry. And yeah, so this one I gave 4 stars, like I said. Definitely the best book I read in February. Okay, then the next book, the last book that I have is Throne of Glass. I just finished this for a individual reading vlog. That will be up here in the next couple of days probably. This was a reread for me. I think everybody knows what Throne of Glass is about at this point. I have read the first 4 books in the Throne of Glass series, and I am currently doing a reread. Really liked it. I actually enjoyed it more this time than the first time I read it. I believe the first time I read through the series, or through part of the series, I liked the subsequent books more than this one. I'm sure that'll probably be the case because a lot of the like build up in history is already done in this book, and now we get to focus more like on the relationships and more on like the future, obviously. So I think this was good. It was a good start. It was good like build up, and got to know the characters pretty well in here. You really get to see the different personalities, which I will talk about more in that vlog. But yeah, this was good. I gave it 5 stars, I think. 4 stars. So I gave it 4 stars. I like this series, but I don't think it's as good as ACOTAR. But yeah, that is it. So there are all of the books that I read in February. Not my best reading month. I read 6 books, like I said. I've definitely read more, you know, in previous months. But not bad. I will take it. I'm also like in the middle of a lot of books. I always end up reading a ton of books, like all at the same time. I'll jump around between several books. So like the month had the potential to have been better for me to have read more books in the month. But about 2 weeks ago I ended up kind of hurting my back. I've been having bad like back spasms, and that just kind of threw everything off. Like I just didn't feel like doing anything. Also, work has been really busy, so that kind of hindered my reading a bit. But yeah, that is it. The next vlog, or the next video I should say, I'm going to be filming is my March TBR, so be on the lookout for that. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books that I mentioned. Did you like them? Did you not like them? Have you read any of the ones that I DNF'd? Let me know down below. And thank you for watching this video. Please like it and consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.